Playing with Power MTG. Powerful cards, powerful formats. Before we get into tonight's game, I wanted to ask a question. Do you have extra cards lying around that you don't use? Want to buy or trade for some extra cards but don't know how to maximize the value? Then you should try out today's sponsor, Card Conduit. Card Conduit is the best service when it comes to selling your extra cards. Don't waste hours trying to find the best buy list price for your cards online. Simply send them to Card Conduit and let them take care of the rest. I have used Card Conduit multiple times already. I always use them to get the best value for my extra cards. I get fair prices for my cards and they save me tons of time. They have three main services. Their standard service lets you send them your unsorted cards of any value. They will sort, grade, and give you the best price for your cards. Their curated service is similar. Send them your unsorted cards worth over $1 in value. They will charge half the fee of the standard service and charge no fee per card. Their sorted service is a great value as well. Choose cards in advance with their selection tool, send them sorted to Card Conduit, and they will grade and buy list them automatically. Save yourself the time of having to send to multiple sites and let Card Conduit do it instead. Their fee is only 2% with no fee per card. They give you the best price for your cards. They work with competitive buy listing partners, including ones not open to the public. Users get an average of 19% more for their collection than they would from any major retail buy list, even with Card Conduit's fees. Card Conduit also optimizes buy listing for card condition as well. Since vendors have different penalties for wear and tear, Card Conduit will find the best buy list priced against the specific condition of the card. So give Card Conduit a try today. If you sign up with my link in the description below or use the promo code POWER, you will also get 10% off of their fees when you use their service. A big thanks to Card Conduit for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's start out by showcasing our fighters this evening. First, we have Alex piloting the Epic Storm. This is an ad nauseum Tendrils of Agony deck that looks to storm off with artifact mana and rituals, then finish the game with a big Tendrils. Alex's opening hand contains 3 Veil of Summer, Dark Ritual, Lion's Eye Diamond, Bloodstained Mire, and a Mishra's Bauble. After that, we have Ashani piloting Jeskai's Sharkstill. This deck is looking to control the game and win by creating large sharks to beat down the opponent. Ashani's opening hand contains a Hall of Heliod's Generosity, Brainstorm, Snow-Covered Island, Tundra, Standstill, Swords to Plowshares, and a Shark Typhoon. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified of when we publish more content. Also, follow us on Twitter, find us on Facebook, and check us out on TikTok and Instagram. Without further ado, let's kick off this amazingly acrobatic aquatic affair. Alex won the Quidditch Cup and gets to start us off. Alex plays a Bloodstained Mire as his land for turn. He casts a Mishra's Bauble and passes the turn to Ashani. Ashani draws and plays a Tundra. He ships the turn back to Alex. At the end of Ashani's turn, Alex sacrifices his Bauble, targeting himself. He looks at the top card and moves to his turn. During his upkeep, Alex draws a card through Mishra's Bauble. He draws and plays a Bloodstained Mire. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up an Underground Sea onto the battlefield. He casts a Brainstorm. He draws 3 and puts 2 back on top. All through, he ends his turn. Ashani draws and plays a Flooded Strand. He gives the turn to Alex. Alex draws and cracks his Bloodstained Mire, pays a life, and fetches up a Taiga onto the battlefield. He plays a Scalding Tarn for turn. He casts Veil of Summer. In response, Ashani casts Brainstorm. He draws 3 and puts 2 back on top. Then Ashani casts Force of Will, paying a life and exiling a blue card, targeting Veil of Summer. In response, Alex cracks his Scalding Tarn, pays a life, and fetches up a Taiga onto the battlefield. He casts a second Veil of Summer. Not wanting Alex to have even an inch, Ashani casts Force of Negation, exiling a blue card, countering and exiling the second Veil. Then Force of Will resolves and counters the first Veil of Summer. Alex says, "All I wanted to do was draw 2 cards," and then passes the turn. At the end of Alex's turn, Ashani cracks his Flooded Strand, pays a life, and fetches up a Volcanic Island onto the battlefield. Ashani draws and plays a Snow-Covered Island. He casts Standstill. He ships the turn to Alex. Alex draws and casts Dark Ritual. Standstill triggers, Ashani sacrifices it and draws 3 cards. Then Alex adds 3 black. He casts Lion's Eye Diamond. He casts an Ad Nauseam. In response, Ashani casts Force of Will, paying a life and exiling a blue card, targeting Ad Nauseam. Ad Nauseam is countered, and Alex gives the turn to Ashani. Ashani draws and plays a Snow-Covered Island. He passes the turn. Alex draws, takes no actions, and ships the turn. Ashani draws and plays a Flooded Strand. He casts Teferi, Time Raveler. He activates Teferi's second ability, declares no targets, and draws a card. He passes the turn to Alex. Alex draws, takes no actions, and gives the turn back to Ashani. At the end of Alex's turn, Ashani cracks his Flooded Strand, pays a life, and fetches up a Snow-Covered Plains onto the battlefield. Then, Ashani cycles Cast Out, draws a card, and moves to his turn. Ashani draws and plays a Scalding Tarn. He activates Teferi's first ability. He casts a Standstill. He ends his turn. Alex draws, bides his time, and passes back to Ashani. At the end of Alex's turn, Ashani cracks his Scalding Tarn, pays a life, and fetches up a Snow-Covered Island onto the battlefield. Ashani draws and activates Teferi's first ability. He plays a Flooded Strand for turn. This standoff is at a standstill, and Ashani gives the turn to Alex. Alex draws and casts Veil of Summer. Standstill triggers, Ashani sacrifices it and draws 3 cards. In response to the Veil, Ashani cracks his Flooded Strand, pays a life, and fetches up a Mystic Sanctuary onto the battlefield. Mystic Sanctuary enters untapped, and Ashani puts Force of Negation from his graveyard onto the top of his library. Ashani then cycles Cast Out and draws a card. Still in response, Ashani hard casts Force of Negation, countering and exiling Veil of Summer. Seeing his window, Alex casts Dark Ritual, adding 3 black. He casts Mox Opal. He casts a Chrome Mox, imprinting nothing. He casts a second Chrome Mox, and again imprints nothing. He casts a Burning Wish. He holds priority and sacrifices his Lion's Eye Diamond, discards his hand, and adds 3 black. Alex then teaches Commander players about the zone called the sideboard as Burning Wish resolves. He puts Tendrils of Agony from his sideboard into his hand. He casts Tendrils of Agony. Storm triggers and he creates an additional 7 copies of Tendrils. They all resolve, dealing 16 to Ashani, and Alex wins the game. Before Game 2, Alex moves to sideboard. He puts in 2 Abrupt Decay to deal around permanent hate. He also brings in a Progenitor Ooze, which can be a hard to counter finisher that plays around Flusterstorm. He removes Echo of Eons and 2 Chrome Mox. Ashani also moves to sideboard. He adds in 2 Flusterstorm, 2 Pyroblast, and 2 Surgical Extraction to deal with the storm. He adds in 2 Seal of Cleansing to deal with Artifact Ramp. He also adds 2 Monastery Mentor and a Hullbreaker Horror for more pressure. He removes 4 Swords to Plowshares, 3 Replenish, 2 Teferi Time Raveler, and 2 Supreme Verdict. In this game, Ashani's opening hand contains a Scalding Tarn, Snow-Covered Plains, Flooded Strand, 2 Brainstorm, Surgical Extraction, and his London Mulligan is a Shark Typhoon. In this game, Alex's opening hand contains a Rite of Flame, Witchclaw Talisman, Ad Nauseam, Lotus Petal, Verdant Catacombs, Mishra's Bauble, and a Galvanic Relay. And Ashani gets to start us off. Ashani plays a Scalding Tarn as his land for turn. He ships the turn to Alex. Alex draws and plays a Verdant Catacombs. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a Taiga onto the battlefield. He casts a Rite of Flame, adding 2 red. He casts a Lotus Petal. He casts a Mishra's Bauble. He casts a Chrome Mox, imprinting Ad Nauseam. He casts Galvanic Relay. It resolves and he exiles Veil of Summer, Mishra's Bauble, Underground Sea, Brainstorm, and a Verdant Catacombs off of the top of his library. All through, he passes the turn. During Ashani's upkeep, Alex sacrifices his Mishra's Bauble, looking at Ashani's top card. Ashani draws and plays a Flooded Strand. He gives the turn back to Alex. During his upkeep, Alex draws a card through Mishra's Bauble. He draws for turn and sacrifices his Lotus Petal to help cast a Brainstorm from exile. He draws 3 and puts 2 back on top. He plays a Verdant Catacombs from exile. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up an Underground Sea onto the battlefield. He casts Mishra's Bauble from exile. He casts a Veil of Summer from exile. In response, Ashani pays 2 life to cast Surgical Extraction, targeting Galvanic Relay. Then Ashani searches Alex's hand, graveyard, and library, exiling all copies. Then Veil resolves and Alex draws a card. He casts a Wishclaw Talisman. He sacrifices Mishra's Bauble, looking at the top card of Ashani's library. With nothing else, he passes the turn to Ashani. During Ashani's upkeep, Alex draws through Bauble. Ashani draws and then cracks his Flooded Strand, pays a life, and fetches up a Tundra onto the battlefield. He casts a Ponder. He looks at the top 3, rearranges, and draws. He cracks his Scalding Tarn, pays a life, and fetches up a Volcanic Island onto the battlefield. He plays a Snow-Covered Plains for turn. He casts Seal of Cleansing. He then sacrifices Seal of Cleansing, destroying Witchclaw Talisman. He gives the turn back to Alex. Alex draws, top decks like an Adonis, and casts another Witchclaw Talisman. He ships the turn. Ashani draws and plays a Flooded Strand. He tells Alex, "How many times do I have to teach you this lesson, old man?" as he casts another Seal of Cleansing. He sacrifices it, destroying Witchclaw Talisman. All through, he passes the turn. Alex draws and casts a third Witchclaw Talisman. In response, Ashani casts a Brainstorm. He draws 3 and puts 2 back on top. Ashani then cracks his Flooded Strand, pays a life, and fetches up a Snow-Covered Island onto the battlefield. Then Witchclaw Talisman resolves and Alex passes to Ashani. At the end of Alex's turn, Ashani casts another Brainstorm. He draws 3 and puts 2 back on top. Ashani draws and casts Cast Out. Cast Out enters, exiling Witchclaw Talisman. Ashani says, "I could do this all day long," and ships the turn back to Alex. During Alex's draw step, Ashani pays 2 life to cast Surgical Extraction, targeting Brainstorm in Alex's graveyard. He searches Alex's hand, graveyard, and library, exiling all copies. Alex does nothing else and passes the turn. Ashani draws and plays a Scalding Tarn. He passes the turn. Alex draws and plays a Bloodstained Mire. He ships it back to Ashani. Ashani draws and plays an Urza's Saga, getting its first counter. He tosses the ball back to Alex. Alex draws and plays a Badlands. He passes with this calm before the storm about to end. Ashani draws and in his first main phase, Urza's Saga gets another counter. He plays a Flooded Strand and passes the turn to Alex. Alex draws and cracks his Bloodstained Mire, pays a life, and fetches up a Taiga onto the battlefield. He casts a Witchclaw Talisman. He gives the turn to Ashani. At the end of Alex's turn, Ashani activates Urza's Saga, creating a construct. He then cracks his flooded strand, pays a life, and fetches up a Mystic Sanctuary onto the battlefield. Mystic Sanctuary enters untapped, and Ashani puts Surgical Extraction from his graveyard onto the top of his library. All through, they move to Ashani's turn. Ashani draws, and in his first main phase, Urza Saga triggers. He activates it, creating another construct, then sacrifices Urza Saga. He fetches up a Retrofitter Foundry onto the battlefield. He moves to combat and attacks Alex with the construct. Alex takes it, and in his second main phase, Ashani pays 2 life to cast Surgical Extraction, targeting Lotus Petal. Ashani searches Alex's hand, which contains 3 Lotus Petals, his graveyard, and his library, exiling all copies. Ashani passes the turn. Alex draws and casts Veil of Summer. It resolves, and Alex steps on the gas. He casts Chrome Mox, imprinting Abrupt Decay. He activates Witchclaw Talisman, fetches up a card into his hand, and then gives the Witchclaw to Ashani. He casts a Lion's Eye Diamond. He casts a Burning Wish. He holds priority and sacrifices his Lion's Eye Diamond, adding 3 black. Burning Wish resolves, and Alex puts Tendrils of Agony from his sideboard into his hand. He casts Tendrils of Agony. Storm triggers, and he creates 4 more copies of Tendrils. The damage is just enough to kill Ashani, and Alex wins the game. Ladies and gentlemen, what an amazing match tonight. In Game 1, Ashani did his best to hold off Alex's ability to gain Storm, but in the end it was too much to hold back as Alex built up the count and then had a Burning Wish to finish the game with Tendrils from his sideboard. In Game 2, Alex and Ashani had an epic back and forth, fighting over multiple Witchclaw Talismans. Alex's top decking ability proved to be too great, and with a resolved Veil of Summer, Ashani could only sit and watch as the storm raged overhead. We hope you enjoyed this Legacy match. Would you have played something differently? What deck would you like to see next? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.